Hello, Star Citizens, and welcome to our new series, Best Fleet for Every Price Bracket, our annual January series where we pick the top 10 fleets from 100 to 1,000. Unless you're talking about our Concierge Edition, look out for that one coming soon. But we will give you a few reasons why each is the best. Remember, digital ships aren't imaginary, they're imagine-necessary. This month's giveaway prize is going to be an RSI Perseus, and we're finally going to give it away at the end of this month. So to enter the contest, if you were a subscriber before December 1st, 2024, make sure you subscribe to Billionaire Ninjas, leave a comment on at least one video, and like or dislike at least one video. If you're subscribed during December or January, share a video on at least 2 social media accounts and leave a comment on every video from this month. Winners have 2 weeks to claim their prize. Members collectively have a greater chance of winning just for being members. So if you're subscribed, consider hitting that join button. And if you're not subscribed, I appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. For the full giveaway details, make sure you visit our Billionaire Ninjas Discord or our social media at Ninjas Leap. We will do the giveaway for this one, like I said, at the end of the In Case You Missed It sale. So at the end of this month to give people more time to participate. So what makes a good fleet? What makes a good fleet? Well, I can't really tell you that much. All I can do is tell you how I built my fleet. So that video will either pop up here or it'll be somewhere down in the description. This video will assume you already know that part and understand the basics of how to build a fleet. We also assume people will spend more than 1,000 or who spent 1,000 already. Then we assume you already know what you're doing, which is why we limit it to 1,000. And we'll do a Concierge Edition for the people who basically say, nah, I still don't know what I'm doing. This time around, we are focusing on solo players. That doesn't mean only ships that have 1 seat, but ships that are able to be flown without much need for a second player to help. Now, some of these ships may be even better with second players, but we're still going to include it in our list if we think a solo player can still do some good damage with it. All right, we understand that our best may not be your best, so make sure you leave a list of what you think is the best ship for each bracket below. We'll state a few reasons why each is the best, which could be for a lot of different reasons. We will go up in increments of 100 all the way to 1,000, and we'll assume no CCUs or upgrades are used. If you use CCUs or upgrades, then you will find you can fit a few more ships into each of these price brackets. But because those prices can drastically differ, we decided to exclude them. If you're one of those people who use CCUs and upgrades, consider this more of a must-have list at each price bracket or a list of ships we would offer in a pack. Okay, last note before we get started, if you want to do a specific profession as your primary role in the game, then of course you can swap out the primary ship in each bracket for your preferred profession as long as it meets that price bracket. For our list, we place fun at the top of the requirements, seconded by utility, then value is third, and finally is money making and intangibles, all of which is subjective. We also assume people are keeping these ships, so we look forward to seeing your list in the comments. Let's get started. This never changes because if you only have $100 to spend on the game, you shouldn't spend $100 on the game. You should spend $60 on the game and get yourself an Avenger Titan starter pack and nothing else. So this is the same as the non-solo edition so far, and to be clear, all the way up to the $300 mark. All of our picks are the same. Remember, all you need is a starter pack in this game. Everything else can be earned in game. That should be your leading philosophy when purchasing ships, but especially when you only have a budget of $100. The Avenger Titan is fun. It has great utility. It saves you $20 compared to the more expensive Nomad and $30 compared to the Hull A. It also offers a better value than the Drake Cutter because of its fighting ability. $200 price bracket. We are still doing our Bunker Runner pack at $190. That is the Crusader C1 Spirit, and the secondary ship would be your C8R. Now, we still keep our honorable mention of buying the Constellation Taurus, which is an excellent multi-role ship and the only ship you need at this price point. The Taurus needs a lot of updates, but it is a solid fighting ship. It's tough, it can carry a vehicle, and it can make you a lot of money with cargo hauling. However, this is more about creating a fleet, so I opted for a 2-ship combination where you now have a ship you can live on that can do cargo. It's solid in a fight and opens up multi-crew gameplay. Now, this is solo, so the multi-crew gameplay part is optional, but we also like the ability to respawn, which is why we have that C8R in there. Allows you to do medical missions, and that is great for bunker missions because of how close you can get without getting shot out of the sky, and your ability to leave and heal afterward or even during the bunker mission. Also, I have to mention that most profession starter ships are available at this level, so at the $200 mark. So if you're interested in mining or salvage with the Prospector or Vulture, I would say you could get those, but I would argue that those are better purchased if you have $300, or I would say you should purchase those in game because they limit the utility of your fleet drastically at the $200 mark. And I know some people in my previous video said that they prefer the Cutlass Red at this price point, but I prefer the C1 because the lack of cargo space, missiles, and toughness of the Cutlass Red compared to the C1 just isn't made up for by the fact that it has those med beds and 12 SCU of cargo space. It is slightly faster and it has those two med beds, but I'd rather have the cargo space, the missiles, and the toughness of the C1, especially at this size. Because you're going to get shot a lot and you need to be able to outlast your opponent, at least until you can get away or fight back. So, you know, the missiles help you do that because you send the missiles and then you turn around and you can flee. The cargo space opens up a little bit more utility. Well, you could, I mean, you don't necessarily have to say it's more utility, but you can say you either get the utility of the cargo space or the utility of the med beds for the respawning. So I think because we have the C8R in there, there's the utility of the med beds right there. And again, this is for solo players, so we don't need 2 med beds because it's for solo players, but the cargo space can still be used by the solo player. So I think the C8R and the C1 is the better combination here. I like the red, just not at this price bracket. All right, moving on to the $300 price bracket, and this is still called the Double Duty Pack. Now, we could just add solo to this, but because it's the same ships, there's no reason to change the name. We keep the C1 Spirit, and it's still very valuable at this price point. This is the first pack where we insert a professional ship, and we mainly do it because it's a massive moneymaker that will allow you to purchase other ships down the road without limiting the versatility of your fleet. So that's the Drake Vulture as your primary ship and the Crusader C1 as your secondary ship. There are tons of options at this price point and every price point going forward, but we think this maximizes the value because other combinations, you're generally spending too much on a single ship that isn't versatile enough or that limits your money-making potential, or it's just not going to be fun. All right, now, $400, this is where we get into our solo packs, our official solo packs, and I love it. All right, so for $400, at the $400 price bracket, we have the Scrap and Tap pack for $395 total. That is our primary ship becomes the Andromeda, the constellation Andromeda, and then the secondary ship is the Misk Prospector. Here we change our C1 Spirit for an extremely solid combat ship that comes with a snub ship for when you need to check things out before heading in. So you get 3 ships for the price of 2. This is great all the way up to HRT levels and maybe even a few ERTs if you're good enough, but I would grab a friend for that snub for a better chance if you're doing the ERTs. Misk Prospector is here because you can make money with it in a different way than with combat, because I know, you know, we like variety a little bit. Variety is the spice of life, and we want variety in our fleet. So mining is a fun time, and if you get bored with it, it's only a $20 upgrade to the Drake Vulture without too much fuss. I know a lot of people wanted me to put the Andromeda in my other list, but the Taurus is both a full cargo ship and a full combat ship versus the Andromeda being a full combat ship and a partial cargo ship, which I think is better suited for the solo player. The pilot-controlled missiles negate the need for a second person for the most part, whereas in the Taurus, a second person in the size 3 turrets brings it to where it needs to be to fight properly. So I think the Taurus is the better for when you have a co-pilot, and the Andromeda is if you're going solo because you can control most of that yourself and you don't necessarily need that second pilot as much. Now, as always, I do think a second pilot in those ships is better, or a co-pilot or a gunner in those is always better, but again, not necessary, and that's where we are here in the solo packs realm. So for our $500 price bracket, the well-rounded solo pack at $475 total. The primary ship here is the Andromeda, the secondary ship is the Drake Vulture, and our role player is the Avenger Titan. This selection gives you at least 4 ways to play the game: dogfighting, salvage, HRTs, and cargo. We've talked about all 3 of these being some of the best in their class, so we won't stick on this one too long. The Andromeda allows for a decent amount of cargo and HRT missions. The Vulture makes you money to replace all those missiles on your Andromeda, because we know those are going to cost a lot coming up. And the Vulture is, the Avenger Titan is for dog fighting fun and to use as your daily driver. Now, all 3 of these technically can be used as a daily driver, but we know the Avenger Titan probably makes the better daily driver. And if you're going long range, you're probably going to want to take that Andromeda with you because it has the better fuel stores. Now, at our $600 price bracket, the ultimate well-rounded solo pack. So now we have the primary ship being the Andromeda, secondary ship stays as the Drake Vulture, but now we're upgrading our role player to the C1 Spirit. This selection requires much less discussion because we are only changing one ship. The Titan is traded out for the more versatile C1 Spirit, which is simply a better daily driver than the Titan because it adds a bit more utility with its ability to carry more cargo and carry a vehicle. Now you have 3 ships that are all beloved ships that all can be operated alone, and they are all really great ships. For our $700 price bracket, this is the bases loaded solo pack at $700 total. Our previous pack, I don't know if we said, but that was exactly $600, and this one is exactly $700. Our $500 price bracket, the well-rounded solo pack, that one was $475 total. So this is our $700 price bracket, and this one it still has a primary ship, secondary ship, and role player. And for this one, the primary ship goes to the Constellation Aquila, and then the secondary ship is the Mirai Guardian QI, and the role player is the C1 Spirit. So we keep the C1 Spirit, but we've changed our primary and secondary ships. And why did we do that? So we're switching up a lot of things. We're upgrading the Aquila, so we lose a bit of that firepower, but now we gain the ability to do some legitimate exploration while still having a very good fighting ship. The Drake Vulture is still a great ship, but we swap it out for more firepower because of what we lose from upgrading the Andromeda. It also adds in the ability to keep people from fleeing with that quantum enforcement. But now we have a long-range solo heavy fighter. And we can swap between a more cargo-oriented daily driver with the C1 and a more combat-oriented daily driver with the Guardian QI. I know there are some issues with the current toughness of the Guardian, but give it a month or 2 and those will be balanced out. Now for our $800 price bracket. And this one is the, wait for it, solo pack. So we kept that same name because this one is, I believe, the only one of all of these that includes a ship that is not currently in game. So primary ship, the Constellation Aquila, we keep that one. The secondary ship is the Drake Vulture. So we're going back to our Drake Vulture and getting rid of the Mirai Guardian QI. And we are going to change up the role player depending on which one you go with. So we're getting a Zeus MR, that one's for sure, but then whether we get a Cutlass Black or a C1 is going to be dependent on what you allow me to do with this here video. So let me explain. So here we keep the Aquila for exploration and a bit more heavy duty fighting. We return to the Vulture as our primary moneymaker, and then things get a bit weird, but you know, I think it's the good kind of weird. We add in the Zeus MR because it's not only, you know, that it has the interdiction capabilities of the Guardian, but also the prisoner transport, so that you can now not only fight with it, but do full-on bounty missions. Then the next one, we give 2 options because we don't want to cheat on our own list. The first option is the one that fits within the price range completely, which is the Cutlass Black, which is probably the best value all-around ship in its class, and it can do a little bit of cargo, a little bit of fighting, and a little bit of multi-crew for the very few times that you have crew with you. Now, if we just go with what we've said so far, which is the Aquila, the Vulture, the Zeus MR, and the Cutlass Black, that gets you to $790. Now, what I would suggest is you go $5 over the price bracket, you know, at $805, and that gets you the C1 Spirit. So now you would have the Constellation Aquila, Drake Vulture, Zeus MR, and C1 Spirit. Now, if you're willing to let us go just $5 over budget, You can squeeze in that C1 Spirit, which adds a bit more toughness and cargo than the Cutlass offers. If I had to choose one, it would be the C1, but as I said, technically that is $5 over budget. However, I'm guessing if you're spending $800, then $5 extra won't be too big of a problem. And of course, there's always the CCU game, but like I said, this list doesn't include any CCUs. So if you want to stay under that $800 price bracket and you're strict about it, then you get the Cutlass Black. If you're not so strict about it and you're willing to go a little like $5 over price, then you can get the C1, and I think that would be the better pack for you altogether. And I don't know anybody who's a stickler at the $800 mark. There's probably some sticklers at the $100 mark, $200 mark, probably all the way up to $500. I don't know anybody who's like sticklers above $500. Maybe there's some people who are sticklers at $1,000 or something like that, but $800 is a weird number to stop at. So you know, but it's up to you. You know, it's your money. You do whatever you want with it. And now we're gonna do the $900 price bracket. And we call this the I Refuse to Go Concierge Solo Pack. That's what we call this one, and it is exactly $900. This is the Constellation Aquila, which we keep. Now our secondary ship becomes the Star Lancer Max. Then we get the role players, which are the F-8C and the P-72 Archimedes. We are now reaching a different level of play. The Aquila has become a mainstay of our fleet because we don't want to go too big, but now we can do much more cargo by adding the Star Lancer Max, which is totally soloable, but just try not to get caught without an escort. Then we add an F-8C, which you can loan to your escort or use to do HRTs, and it's just really fun to fly an F-8C. Let's all just be really frank about that. And we upgrade our P-52 to a P-72 for a little bit more speed and firepower, but still retaining that ability to take two ships in our Aquila. And of course, that Aquila now will have an Ursa rover in it, so it comes with that vehicle, and you get to stay at your $900 price point because you do not want to be concierge, and we know that about you because you picked $900, and that is your sticking point. So now we go to our final pack, which is the $1,000 price bracket, and we still call this the Well I Might As Well, except we add solo pack. So the Well I Might As Well solo pack, and it is $995. This is keeping the Constellation Aquila, keeping the Star Lancer Max, keeping the F-8C, and then all we'll do is take away that P-72 upgrade and we'll just throw in a C1. So now we have 4 fully equipped ships, the Constellation Aquila, Star Lancer Max, F-8C, and C1. Now we are in the big leagues, and all it takes is swapping out that upgraded P-72 for that full-fledged ship, which we have already sang the praises of, our C1 Spirit. We now have exploration, a light gunship, heavy cargo, vehicle carrying capabilities. We have a dedicated dogfighter, and perhaps the best daily driver in the game. Add a skin to any one of these, and welcome to the Monocle Club, my friend. There is your best fleet for every price bracket, solo edition. Make sure you look out for our last version of this, which will be the best fleet for every price, Concierge Edition, where we will do every concierge level above 1,000. So we did 1,000 already, so we'll start at the $2,500 mark in that one. All right, and yeah, that's it. That's it for this one. Shout out to the members. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.